In this section, we're going to be adding and subtracting radicals, and it's very similar to combining like terms. The big deal is make sure that you have the radical, what's underneath the radical, the same. So, for instance, this is not simplified. So my first step here is I'm going to simplify negative 2 squared root of 20. So if I break 20 up, let's say I don't recognize a perfect square right off the bat, and I get 2 and 10, 2 and 5. So that means I can take a 2 out. When you take this 2 out, remember, he's being multiplied with what is ever outside your radical. It's kind of like your coefficient. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And then what's left over? Square roots of 5. And then negative 2 square roots of 5. So because this is the same radical, all I'm doing is I'm combining negative 4 and negative 2 to be negative 6, and I keep that same radical. So my answer here would be negative 6 square roots of 5. All right, let's take a look and do some examples together. So here, they're already the same. So I look at my coefficients 3 and negative 2, which is 1. So I can either say 1 square roots of 6 or just square roots of 6. Okay, look at number, and again, 2, same radical. So 2 plus 2 is 4, and keep the same radical. All right, let's look at number 3. So here, let's say I don't recognize the perfect square right off the bat, and I get 9 and 7. Well, actually, square root of 9 is 3. So 3 is going to be multiplied with this coefficient, and I get 6, and what's left over? Square root of 7. And here I have 10 square roots of 7, and it's positive. 3 times 2 is positive 6. Now my radical is the same, so I get 16 square roots of 7 would be my answer. Okay, let's look here. So this is 2 and 12, 16, 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. So I can take 2 sets of 2 out. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 because outside. And that gives me 8 square root of 2 left over. I've simplified that one. Here, this is square root of 9 times square root of 2. The square root of 9 is 3. So 3 being multiplied with negative 3 is negative 9. And I have a square root of 2 left over. So when I combine, they're like terms because my radical's 2. And so 8 and negative 9 is negative 1. Square roots of 2 would be my answer here. So I think you kind of get the idea of that one. Let's go to the next page. And let's look at some of these. So even if you have 3 terms, remember, commutative property, you can add and subtract any way you want. So here, I can't break 10 down, but I can combine them. A negative 2 square root of 10 and a negative 2 square root of 10 is negative 4 square root of 10. And because I can't combine this, it just now becomes a binomial. It's 2 terms. You just keep them separated. Over here, same thing. I can combine these guys to be 6 square roots of 7, and then I have plus 5 square roots of 3 left. All right, so if you look down at number 11, here I can do square root of 2 times square root of 25, and I recognize that the square root of 25 is 5, so I take 5 out to be multiplied with negative 3, and I get negative 15 square roots of 2 is left over. The square root of 18 is square root of 9 and square root of 2, so I can simplify that to be positive 3 square roots of 2, and then I have negative 3 square roots of 3, which cannot simplify. So here I'm going to combine my like terms, and I get negative 12 square roots of 2 minus 3 square roots of 3, and that will be my final answer. So I think that's pretty much what's happening there. And again, perimeter. So once you get to these, you still simplify square root of 9, square root of 8, and don't forget that square root of 4 and square root of 2. So that's 3 times 2 times 2. So 4 times 3 is 12. That simplifies to 12 square roots of 2. And here I can simplify. That simplifies to square root of 9 is 3. So 3 times 8 is 24, and I get square roots of 2. Now my radicals are all the same, so when I combine them, perimeter, of course, is adding up all the sides. So I get 28 and 24 is 52, and then square root of 2 units, whatever that units is. If it's inches or whatever, that would be my final answer. So that's how we add and subtract. It's very similar to like terms. If you're struggling, come see me.